In 1999, those words from author-poet Maya Angelou inspired the inaugural Women's Fund event in Binghamton.
We really did start small, but a Rolling Stone gathers no moss. It did. It did gather moss. It got lots of dollars in fairly early on, and we set some intermediate goals to help make it work. And we had a couple of receptions and that kind of thing. People just liked the idea, understandably.
The idea was to establish a women's fund under the stewardship of the Community Foundation for South Central New York, where Judy was the executive director. The initial goal was to attract 100 women to give $1,000 each to seed the fund with $100,000. Women like Rita Cherumbola Ernstrom.
I was absolutely inspired by the vision and the mission statement that these women had put together, that something was going to happen to really have a positive impact.
The Women's Fund improves and empowers the lives of women and girls in the region through collective and engaged philanthropy among women.
It was intriguing and it was exciting. I was impressed with the quality of the individuals. There was this sense of integrity with the people as well as the foundation. It afforded me to fulfill a passion and a commitment to women and girls. And I liked the fact that the fund was tied to the foundation because it gave me a sense that the commitment to the community would be there in perpetuity.
What started small, both in terms of funding and grant awards in 2002, has grown to an endowment of more than $1 million with 1,000 donors and counting. Celebrating its 20th anniversary year, the Women's Fund has awarded more than $272,000 to over 100 projects and programs at nonprofit agencies throughout the Community Foundation's 5-county region. It's the donors who help select the projects. Any donor can sit on the grants committee, which decides awards based on community needs and the impact projects will have on supporting women and girls. They range from health and safety, education, arts, and career development. The Girl Scouts of Nipah Pathways used grant funds to construct a solar STEM lab at Camp Amahami in Deposit, completed in 2020.
The science lab in the woods.
The lab is the result of a Girl Scouts USA focus on STEM to increase the percentage of girls pursuing those studies.
For anybody that knows Girl Scouts, we start from kindergarten to 12th grade, and so we want to get girls here right away. We want to get those little daisies, those little brownies out here experimenting with nature, experimenting with science, and learning and getting excited about it. So when the time comes for them to maybe take some of those classes that maybe don't sound as exciting sometimes in the maths and sciences, they'll have the excitement already.
And an exciting feature of the lab are the truth panels,
which basically lets the girls and adults and all of us see what goes on behind the wall, under the floor, in the room that's collecting the solar energy to power the STEM lab. You know, they can really come in and understand everything about this building that in other places you may not see.
WSKG received a grant for SciGirls, an after-school program for girls to engage and get them excited about STEM careers. Most recently, the public TV station received a grant to support the documentary The Devil's Fire, about the 1913 Binghamton Clothing Factory fire on Wall Street.
Most of the workers were young immigrant women who had recently just come to the Triple Cities, had come to Binghamton, and were working in this clothing factory.
The fourth-floor sewing room of the Binghamton Clothing Company largely reflected America in the early years of the 20th century.
Most of the people working the day of the fire were women, and of the 31 who died, 29 were women.
More than 100 years later, the Binghamton Clothing Company fire remains the most costly human tragedy in Binghamton's history.
And it's a really touching story in many ways about how they looked after each other. And it's a story about the community, how they rallied around these women and their families after this tragedy.
And brought sharper focus nationwide to factory working conditions and fire safety. With the Women's Fund grant, WSKG worked with local teachers to develop a virtual gallery walk for use in social studies classrooms.
It's living as a Google slide deck, and it's called a virtual gallery walk because when teachers or students open up this slide deck, they are actually walking into a gallery type setting. They are accessing materials right from the documentary. They're really able to examine at their own pace different elements of this historical event, all virtual, all through technology.
I enjoyed my years of teaching, but I was ready for something different.
Kelly Cross was ready to start her own business. She taught at DCMO BOCES and knew the school offered an entrepreneur academy, but she needed financial assistance. That's where the Women's Fund Scholarship came in.
So the grant was able to give me the money to take the program, and within the program I was able to get all of the tools that I needed to be able to put together a business plan to actually start our wellness business.
Jasmine Moon Wellness is now online with plans to open a wellness center. The business sells crystals, crystal jewelry, including bracelets, and essential oils.
I absolutely think it's really exciting to be able to have your own business. It's a lot of work, but it's very gratifying. And for anybody out there that is really has a passion for something, I think this is a great place to start.
The Mothers and Babies program received its third Women's Fund Award, which ties back to a previous grant to support pregnant women working towards recovery from addiction at the UHS Methadone Clinic.
Under an evidence-based program called Baby Basics, we're really helping pregnant women understand what's going on during their pregnancy, how to prepare to bring baby home, how to handle maybe some of the different behavioral traits that babies may have because of mom's former addiction issues. And then once the baby is born, once again, how to help them feel more comfortable, taking care of baby, what other resources they might need in the community to help them or their babies.
The most recent grant allows mothers who've been helped by Baby Basics to assist the program's community health worker as mentors and provide expectant mothers with a baby care item like a stroller. Mothers and Babies also has used grant money for postpartum depression education. Each year, the Women's Fund holds an event to highlight the fund and award recipients. What started as an afternoon gathering evolved into a breakfast with a legacy of notable, must-hear speakers aligned with the group's mission.
But I would say Margaret Trudeau was several years ago, was very impactful. And of course, at the time, there was a surge in mental health challenges across the nation and the world. And so her personal story was inspiring.
I refer to women who have inspired me. One of them is our former speaker, Amy Dickinson, who her quote is, "Real queens fix each other's crowns." And I think of that as, I know it relates to her story, but it relates to all of us, I think, as we go forward in terms of what we do for other women.
Kimberly Peabody was introduced to the Women's Fund in 2018 at a co-sponsored event featuring Tarana Burke, founder of the Me Too movement.
Her presentation was that whole element of we got to strike when the fire is hot, while people are listening.
Kimberly was encouraged to learn more about the Women's Fund while engaging with many of her peers at Binghamton University who were familiar with the fund.
Dr. Angela Riley emailed me and said, I put your name forward and I want you to consider about being on the board. And she knows of my interest also to do things within the community. So yeah, that's how I got here.
As a newer member of the leadership committee, Kimberly sees opportunity to broaden the fund's impact on the community.
They are doing projects that I believe not only empower women, but also revere women and their roles and what they can accomplish. Young girls, women, we need to empower them all the way through. And then, that's where the great impact happens, because if you empower 10, that grows, they empower.
We want to start engaging and re-engaging a diverse population in terms of the 5 communities that we serve, and also that let people know that women in philanthropy, it doesn't mean how much money you can give, but it is really getting on board with the concept of collectively, all women, we can do amazing things.
And there is a place for everyone with the Women's Fund, regardless of what your passion is and your life experience.
If the founding challenge was 100 women donating $1,000 each, now
Maybe you could get 10 of your friends to give $100 and you could come in too.
If people are looking for an opportunity to make a difference, and a difference that will have a broader impact, I say they need to contribute to the Women's Fund and get involved in the things that we're doing and see the good work that's happening right in our community and support it. And let's make Binghamton, Broome County a better place.
Thank you, Women's Fund, for believing in our work and for helping make it happen, especially for local learners.
I love the concept behind the Women's Fund. I think what's really important about that is even though it may be a smaller grant, it has, great, effect, for us as an organization and for the community.
Because I think it just gives women an opportunity to kind of step up to the plate and take on their dreams.
Judy Peckham recalls setting a goal for the Women's Fund to reach $500,000. Now, double that and growing, she's not surprised.
I just think it's really good to think in such difficult and challenging times about the positive things that have happened, especially in a community which is often disparaged. And it's a wonderful, responsive community, and here we are to tell about it.